Good evening. I'm right now on the Platte River, across the river from Louisville. The water levels are still increasing as we speak. Take a look at this right now. The waves are pounding down on the Platte River. I've honestly never seen a sight like this before in my life. So I'm about 5'8", and just from this distance, it looks like these waves are just as tall as me, if not to my shoulders, and it's smashing on the bridge of what is Highway 50. We've heard that they are shutting down this bridge as we speak, so tons of traffic right now across Highway 50 as they're trying to get off before these water levels get high. There's a chance that this bridge might get flooded with the pace that these water levels are going. I talked to some residents today who came back to their houses to see that they were flooded. On the Platte River, residents along Highway 50 are seeing just how powerful,
it's bad,
and sadly dangerous,
this is probably the biggest one I've seen,
water can be.
I'm gonna cry.
Kathy Nielsen's cabin is completely submerged.
It's not the first time, but this is the worst time that we've had it this deep. And we've never had it go in the cabin before.
With her car damaged, she's hoping that's the only valuable destroyed.
Oh yeah, it's like our house, you know. We've got, you know, beds and all of our, you know, appliances, things that you can't take out of the house.
Next door, the popular Heron Bay Bar is underwater. Owner Shirley Smith said her home and business were above the water when they evacuated last night.
I lost my breath for a second. Went,
A smell of a hiss.
yeah, you know, it's just another nature coming back. I think it's telling us we better clean our act up.
And when Mother Nature's at her worst, human spirits are at their best. Here in Cedar Creek, the communities took off from school and work to lay down sandbags to help out a fellow neighbor.
That's the beauty of it, because there's no questions asked. People just show up. It's just tight-knit and everybody helps each other.
Unfortunately, the water isn't leaving anytime soon.
But it's a lot of cleanup and a lot of work, and you do what you can do, you know.
Seeing all the people around us and knowing everybody's together, I think we'll take care of each other and be okay.
And there were so many examples today of people just being good, kind citizens for their community. An example we didn't show in that story is a general store in Cedar Creek that's usually just open for the summertime, opened up so that people in the area could get supplies.
Trying to get through the water, you see the fire and rescue teams throwing on their life jackets so that they can help get this man to safety, or this person to safety. And I see that they are getting the tractor in, and they're trying to get this guy. He might be actually on the tractor. Kevin has a better view on his camera and the viewfinder there. And so right now, just a very tense, dangerous situation over here, just proving to you guys how important it is to take heed to their advice, to emergency and county officials when they let you guys know what's going on. When they say, hey, it's dangerous over here, it's important that people listen, because things like this can happen.
You live on an area called a 100-year floodplain. You don't expect to see a lot of water like that.
For Doreen Yankovic, the recent floodings have hit close to home, her brother's home to be exact. He's lived near 226th and Q Street for about 15 years and evacuated Friday night.
That's a hard thing, because it came in a little bit faster than they were expecting. In situations like that, you try to grab the essential things, and that included little chickens and pictures and things like that.
But some essentials were left behind.
Right now the horses were just too big to get out, and so they're on high ground as far as they can find.
David Perkins lives in a nearby neighborhood.
It's been pretty amazing to watch the water rise here over the last couple of days.
Leaving mixed emotions about his lack of flooding compared to his neighbors.
We've kind of been watching it from up here sitting on the hill, and you kind of feel a little guilty being out of harm's way.
Merlin Bemis has lived below the hill for 6 years.
It's devastating. It is devastating.
And had to be rescued from the rising water yesterday morning.
I was scared. I was petrified. You know, I didn't know how fast it was coming up.
Troy Kendall has a cabin a few doors down from Merlin.
Every piece of furniture in the cabin's underwater, you know, so that's the worst it's ever been since we've been out here.
But whether you live on top of the hill or below, the effects of the flood are shared by everyone.
I was blown away. The utter devastation. The power of nature is incredible.
While much of the town of Missouri Valley is okay, The houses in this area, south of the train tracks, took in several feet of water, destroying homes like the one behind me.
So we thought we were okay this time. It always goes out somewhere else, but it didn't this time.
Rhonda Mosseth left her home of 35 years behind last Wednesday. When it became apparent the floodwaters would get to her house, she came back Sunday to devastation.
It just totaled everything. Everything's mud and it's just ruined.
Now she's left picking up the pieces of her most precious items.
I lost my dad's Bible. You can't replace that stuff.
Down the road, this entire storage facility took in more than 2 feet of water. Rose Phillips had a house worth of stuff inside her unit after moving into an RV last year. She now has to toss items worth thousands of dollars.
Kind of a struggling person, you know, a struggling veteran making it from month to month.
But like Rhonda, her mind is on the personal items she can never get back.
Losing my mom's pictures. I grew up my entire life looking at these pictures, daydreaming about the perfect life was in those pictures, and losing those pictures is going to be the one thing that
Halloween pictures
breaks my heart, losing pictures like this.
Many in Missouri Valley are wondering what they'll do next. After living here her whole life, Rhonda is now looking to move on.
We're gonna leave. I can't live here. I can't do this again next year.
Now, Rhonda also tells me that her son lives several blocks away, and his house was completely totaled by the flood as well. Both of them headed to a family's house in Council Bluffs, where 18 people were staying during the flood.
This is Nebraska Strong.
I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. A lot of people are waiting for those. All right.
Dozens of pilots donating their planes, fuel, and time to bring supplies from Millard to Fremont.
They're stranded, they're stuck, they don't have any other options, and be able to come with friends to ferry stuff up and get people home. It's just kind of the best of humanity, I guess.
Jim Davis caught a donated flight to Omaha to see a doctor.
A lot of the doctors can't make it to the Fremont hospital, and so the only way I could get my treatment was to come here today.
Davis describes Fremont as a muddy island, and his house?
Oh, my house burned down 2 days before the flood. All bad luck. I just haven't been able to think any good luck lately.
Jug of water in here?
Volunteers on the ground at the Millard Airport collected donations from the community and loaded them on planes.
We got passengers coming on board. Okay. Go from there, okay? All right.
Crystal Sandoval is a medication aide at an assisted living home in Fremont.
They're probably doing good. They're in good hands.
She's flying into work to relieve colleagues who've been on duty since Friday.
Because that's my job.
With her suitcase in tow, she isn't sure when she'll make it back.
And when some of the roads open up, I guess. I don't know.
It's only a 20-minute flight, and Mayfield has made dozens of them the past 2 days.
Yeah, and you put yourself in their shoes. They don't have any option. There's no roadways in. They're waterlocked in there, and so yeah, it's a pretty desperate feeling for them.
And this is why they call it Nebraska Strong.
Thank you. That's what we're here for.
This isn't a lake I'm on. This is farmland. It's a 10-minute boat ride to our destination.
We call this the Mitchell Island now.
Kim Ashlock, her husband, and 2 kids moved into her grandparents' farm last year.
But my brother and I love this land so much. I told my husband when we sold our house in Nebraska City, we're not fearing the river anymore.
220 acres, 180 of which her brother farms, is now a giant sand dune.
This should be our driveway. This is usually rock/dirt and just beautiful green grass everywhere.
This is not normally lakefront riverfront property. Inside the home, more of the same.
The hardest part out of this house to leave is right behind this door. And their heights at different ages, and then my kids, myself, somehow we will have to cut this out. This is the one thing that I can't give up in this house. So I'm glad it doesn't look completely destroyed.
It's a story that, sadly, we've been hearing almost daily.
You know, and what's sad is there's, a huge insurance policy on all of this, and it covers nothing. And the building that he had full of his equipment is done. It's toast. Oh my God. This is usually concrete here, and then just flat.
Flat. This should be flat.
This should be flat. My grandpa's a very well manicured man, and so is my brother. So they keep this immaculate.
As far as this place and income potential on this farm, I would say it's pretty much gone. The thought of trying to do anything out here is no longer even reasonable thought.
So it's always survived, but it can't survive when man is sending us more water than we're supposed to deal with.
Many people in Hamburg are blaming the height of the levees or the Corps of Engineers for the flooding. This family has a different take. They're saying it's not the Corps' fault, but that the Corps' mismanagement of the levees and the water system is what caused the flooding to get as bad as it did.
We know how to live on the river, but this we should not have to deal with. And the water has been right up to this levee so many years now. Of course this levee can't handle it.
The Corps has been around for a long time, and yes, farming properties on the river bottom can be challenging. But the problem is the policies have changed enough and the priorities are not there for the right reasons where they need to be, and that's the reason why all of us are struggling so much.
The water's not leaving anytime soon. The only ones leaving are the ashlocks.
I mean, this is the end for us unless the Corps is going to pay to have all this removed. I love this place. I played on this farm, grew up on this farm. All of us did. And I'm thankful my kids at least will remember it.
It's been several days since the floodwater has gone down here in North Bend, but the work for community and business owners out here is just beginning. Sean Jewell's home wasn't affected by the floods, but that wasn't the case here.
Right away you could tell the door was caved in on the end, and we had about 18 inches of water, so we knew that it was bad.
His small business was ruined.
All the lower end of the drywall got ruined there. Some stuff had floated around and pulled monitors off of the desks. Computer towers, it was 2.5 foot deep on the computer towers, and of course they were underwater.
And to make matters worse, Sean had just begun construction to add more office space.
It's rough, yeah. The emotions are up and down.
Schools are closed, and a once busy business district now sits empty. There are even more issues. Sewer and water systems are still offline.
You cannot flush your toilets. You cannot put anything down the drain in the house. Anything you put down a drain is going to come back up in your neighbor's house.
Public Information Officer Nathan Arneal says it could be another 24 hours until they know if the water is safe to drink. And with the possibility of more rain later in the week, the city isn't in the clear just yet.
So we're asking people and businesses to hang on, don't start throwing away your sandbags yet, keep them in place.
Out in Pacific Junction lies the Boomer Estate.
Dad bought it and remodeled it into a house.
Deanne Hebner moved here when she was 3. Her dad's been out here for the last 55 years.
This is the first time that I've come to look at this since it all happened. We've just now made it up here because with all the water along the way, you can't get through.
And for the first time in a half-century, he'll need a new residence.
They were in here today and inspected it this morning. It makes sense.
Deanne, her daughter Tanya, and I walked in together.
This is what's going to give me nightmares.
Water.
What is there, like 8, 9 steps to go down?
Had destroyed her childhood home.
57 years he's lived here and only had like 6 or 8 inches in the basement. Never has it been up here.
And the damage wasn't only inside the house. A front yard once filled with green grass, now laced with corn stalks in all directions.
I don't know if he wants to fix it up or he just says bulldoze it in. Spent, years of my life here growing up, but the main thing is Grandpa safe.
Stanley Boomer had stayed in the house throughout most of the flooding.
I was upstairs, it didn't really bother me.
When he came down here at that time, there's 16 inches of water. He knew he can't stay.
He was rescued the following Monday.
So I had to wade out up to about there, and 2 guys just grabbed me by the shoulders, the arms, and just drag you over the front of the boat.
The house?
The way I look at it, it's just trashed now.
Possessions are replaceable. Lives?
Ain't much worth saving, is there?
That's a different story.
Ain't much worth saving.
You are. You're worth saving.
It was a nice, quiet neighborhood. That's part of the reason we liked it down here.
Nearly 200 families called Paradise Lakes in Bellevue home.
We had a nice water view. There's nobody behind us. We had the lake right there. You could go fishing. Probably not the paradise everybody thinks, but it was a nice place to live.
This spring, every home in this neighborhood was submerged in floodwater. The family says watching the demolition of the place they called home for just a year gives them some closure.
I've had a lot of sleepless nights worried about this, not knowing what's happening. You know, it's been broken into several times.
Theirs is the first to go.
Everybody wants to have it tore down, but nobody knows exactly the steps or how much money it's going to take. And a lot of people don't have it. They use the FEMA money to move on with their lives and get places to live and clothes.
Very sad. It makes me feel sad for them. I mean, because I look around here and it's their homes.
Christensen says it's going to cost homeowners thousands to demolish their homes, and Bellevue wants them to begin the process by the end of July.
There's a lot of homes here. I don't know, you know, who owns all the houses, but it'll be cutting it close. The average house, so we can wreck in a day, so we can wreck quite a few of them in one, you know, in a month and a half.
Eventually, all of this will make its way to the Sarpy County landfill, and residents can rebuild their new paradise.
After everything that's gone down, the stories I've heard and things that have happened, I don't want to be a part of this anymore.
Wherever that may be.
It's been a waiting game for many people in this area. We spoke with one man who's been packed up since the March evacuations back when that was going on, and many others who are tired of the impacts this is having on their travels.
It's terrible. I just lost my wife on top of it.
2019 has been a tough year for Ralph Lozano, who lives near Loveland, Iowa.
We lost pictures, all kinds of stuff, so yeah, it's not easy, bud. So.
That was back in March when floodwaters got into his basement. His wife passed away in April, and now in September, he's on evacuation notice again.
Look okay now, but that takes a runoff off the interstate and everything, and it can change in a blink of an eye.
The Missouri River is about a mile from his home, but the water from it is just a few yards away.
There's water all around us. Fields down south are completely full.
And this isn't the first time he's dealt with possible evacuations.
I never unpacked from the last time.
Balsano is frustrated with the newest threat. And for others, they're frustrated with the travel impacts.
I had to go an alternate route, which we've done this many times before.
Christine Michael, who's from Logan and was traveling to Council Bluffs, couldn't go her normal route of I-29.
Just the traffic is slow, 40 mile an hour all the way to Council Bluffs, the hills, and you can't pass.
Michael's home isn't threatened, but she's seen the impacts this new round of flooding is causing.
There are people who just got drywalled and just starting to move back in, and they're having to get out, and it'll probably ruin everything again.
One of those people may be Balsano, who's grown tired of possibly having to leave every few months.
Going through it once, twice, 3 times is ludicrous.
Something important to keep in mind, GPS and phone navigation systems tend to be inaccurate during these types of events, so be sure to follow the Iowa 511 app, the Iowa 511 website, and our website, 3newsnow.com, for the latest on those road closures and conditions. In Iowa, John Madden, 3 News Now.
Thanks, John. The Nebraska Department of Transportation wants drivers to be aware the flood closure may mean extra traffic on some more rural routes. They tweeted, "Heads up, North Omaha area and Blair commuters. This closure of I-29 in Iowa may cause increased traffic on highways 30, 75, and 133. Plan ahead and leave extra time."
This has been here for close to 6 months.
This property has a new tenant, floodwater.
So this property over here that's fenced in, that's half underwater, that's where all my animals were. I had goats, chickens, a miniature horse.
Mayor Darren Reeves owns the land next door. He's no stranger to the area.
It's very tough, especially knowing everybody. I've sandbagged this house multiple times and protected it, as well as the water treatment plant.
The water treatment plant provided water for the whole town.
It had probably 15 feet of water in it, so everything electrical in there is ruined. Everything has to be replaced.
Running off a temporary facility, Peru was on a boil advisory from May 16th until August 12th, hauling in 8 to 14 semi-loads a day from the nearby town of Auburn.
We're surrounded by water here, but you can't drink any of it.
And the water advisory made its way across town to Peru State College, where students were drinking from bottled water, sometimes eating lunch off paper plates, and on reduced shower times from May until mid-August.
We asked them to think about ways to reduce their use of water, and they cut their water use by almost a third.
Community members donated more than 10,000 bottles of water this spring. While the advisory is done, the school is still trying to limit water.
I think that was a good thing for all of us to realize in general because of how much we use it and then how much we wasted.
We have plenty of water from the city, but not plenty of water to waste.
The temporary plant can last 3 years. A new one isn't cheap.
Initial reports over $3 million.
Plans are underway, but there's still more work to be done in Peru.
They're well on their way to a plan. They're working with FEMA officials. We may have the best water system we've ever had when this is all done.
And Phil Bergman joins me now in studio. Now, you showed us the conditions yesterday and today. How is the city doing there?
It's tough down there. They haven't been talked about a lot, and there is still 8,000 acres of farmable land that is underwater nearly 6 months after the flooding began. And the way that this levee broke, this water has nowhere to go, and it's stuck down there.
Floods are a part of life here in the Midwest. This year, record-breaking floods brought devastation to so many communities. Many in rural areas blame an outdated and over-regulated levee system. In Iowa, a group of researchers are studying floods past, present, and future, and found it's much more than that.
It shows what's going on in locations.
Witold Krajewski is the head of the Iowa Flood Center, established in 2008 after massive flooding, causing over $1 billion in Iowa alone. The center works with state and federal agencies, compiling data to create an all-in-one stop for the average Joe to be up to date with flooding and weather.
I like to think of this as technical agents for the people of Iowa, and also helping the small guys.
Using 250 river real-time monitors across the state.
It's an ultrasonic stream sensor. It measures and reports the water elevation above sea level.
Besides measuring stream levels, the center delves into data collected over the years. The trend they're seeing, more moisture year over year because of warming temperatures, leading to the increase of flooding events. Just to give you an idea, the National Oceanic and Atmosphere Administration shows that from 2008 to 2018, the average temperature in a place like Omaha rose by 3.3 degrees, which has led to more rain, nearly 4 inches in the same time period.
Maybe not that much intensity of rainfall, but frequency of intense, rainfall, throughout, the state.
A warming climate and an old levee system is a recipe for disaster, immeasurable for small-town economies. The center created an incredibly accurate map showing a 100-year flood using the city of Hamburg. It's so accurate to the event in March, right down to the streets.
Devastating, just downright devastating. I mean, there's really nothing you can feel, just kind of go numb.
Ryan Mullins and his family lived on the south side of Hamburg, the epicenter. Floodwaters were up to his roof.
It's never going to be the same as it was. It's everything that my youngest knows. It's the house that he grew up in, was brought home from the hospital in.
Like so many others who lost their homes, they aren't coming back. Most of what you see here is destined for demolition.
You want to cry? Because a lot of friends, a lot of everybody I've known since I was 2 or 3, and it's just very heartbreaking.
A changing climate might soon have flood-prone cities looking for ways to change. The Iowa Flood Center provides a roadmap. Their incredibly accurate maps and predictions even get right down to the estimate of cost of the damage if a major flood hits, right down to the individual buildings.
If you buy a house in this location, it's not about 1 year, it's about 30 or 50 years. If it's about 30 years, then your chances of being flooded in the same location, 26%. Okay, same scenario, 26%. That's a game changer. This is what people don't know.
It's hard to say if any change will be brought after some of these latest flooding events. The Army Corps of Engineers are still assessing the damage and just beginning to rebuild. If they want to make any kind of changes to their levee system, it requires an act of Congress. Discussions are being held, but nothing solid yet. As for the Iowa Flood Center, they're dissecting the latest data from this recent event, providing vital information that can save lives and property.
It's virtually impossible to anticipate, everything that Mother Nature can dish out. What do we do about this, now?
The Army Corps of Engineers have not changed their battle plan with the levee system since 2004. And a lot of politicians in Iowa, Nebraska, and farmers as well say this latest plan only leads to disaster.
The Missouri River is vital to our area for those who live near it and farm, to wildlife like migrating birds, fish. They all have their role, and the Corps of Engineers have to try to balance all of this. But with the latest flood, there's calls for drastic change.
We've got miles and miles of these roads, and it's going to take weeks to fix this road.
Farmer in Fremont County Supervisor Dustin Sheldon points out an all too common sight. Fields turned to lakes, and infrastructure damaged or destroyed.
It's to the point now where it's serious. It's extremely serious because it's going to make the Missouri River bottom farmer an extinct person too.
In the 1990s, the Army Corps of Engineers added the restoration of wildlife preserves and the creation of new sanctuaries to their to-do list. Critics claim over time this has slowed the river, building up sediment, making the river more shallow and wider. And farmers say the result is fast-moving floodwaters hitting with little to no warning, pointing out that this latest event is a prime example.
The ecosystems they've destroyed from flooding like this, nothing's working. Nobody's getting any benefit out of this.
Protection of life and personal property.
At a recent hearing, Midwest lawmakers called on the Corps to change their priorities.
But it needs to be protection of human life. Flood control needs to be number one. Life and safety issues.
We also feel that that better control of the existing dams would be a step in the right direction.
Putting wildlife on the back burner.
Well, it's very important. I will not disagree with that. But is it more important than the life and safety of human beings, their livelihoods? I would say that no, it's not.
We never sought to impinge flood control or any of the other authorized purposes that the Corps has. And we think that it's really important that we evaluate the cause of these things and then work together collaboratively to find solutions.
Casey Cruz is with Fish and Wildlife.
We think that sustainability of the river can include all of the authorized purposes, and we look forward to being involved with the basin and with the Corps.
The priority right now is getting flood relief flowing, help those in need, get life back to normal. The Corps does have a plan to revisit its priorities, but this might take some time. For any changes to the master manual, it takes an act of Congress. State, local, federal, and tribal entities will have to find common ground, a way to create a balance, preserving nature as well as the livelihoods and lives of those who live near the Missouri River.
Just change a few things here and there. We're not asking for the world, but we just want to be able to farm our ground and not flood out and cost everybody their livelihood.